I'm Sarai Bolden, and I am a Bronzeville enthusiast. Present-day Bronzeville has a high population of black people, but it wasn't always like that. In the 1800s, it was known as a Jewish enclave, so that means that there's like a lot of Jewish people there. And so once in the 1890s, the late 1890s, a lot of black people started migrating up north because they wanted to escape Jim Crow, because they didn't want to be in the South because that's a really bad situation to be in. So they went to Chicago, and so they moved to Bronzeville, and so that's why now Bronzeville is known as the black metropolis. And so it became a major neighborhood with a lot of black people and a lot of black owned things. So it was black restaurants, black theaters, black stores, stuff like that. But then once the Great Depression hit, Bronzeville had a major impact on Bronzeville, and so it lost a lot of people. And in addition to that, racial segregation, informal racial segregation, and also redlining was also a major cause to Bronzeville deteriorating as a neighborhood. But as of today, there are huge movements to revitalize Bronzeville, and so that's why today when you drive through, you'll see a lot of construction and new projects to help Bronzeville become what it used to be.
Hi, I'm Grace Keppen, and as of 3 weeks ago, I am a Bronzeville expert. Bronzeville is home to the Southside Community Art Center, which was built in 1892. In its prime, this beautiful mansion was the spot for large parties in the community. In 1940, this home became the art center that conserves, preserves, and promotes the legacy and future of the African American art. During its opening, Eleanor Roosevelt gave a speech in front of the fireplace on the first floor. Other notable figures that made an appearance were Langston Hughes, Gwendolyn Brooks, who taught poetry in this building, and Nat King Cole, who played on the piano that Faith is playing on. Since June 16, 1994, the Southside Community Art Center has been an official Chicago landmark. It is free to the public for those who are interested.
Linda Berry's themes in the syllabus was noticing what you notice, and one of the things that we noticed was the presence of art celebrating black culture on buildings in Bronzeville.
Another thing we noticed in Bronzeville was a stark contrast between areas that they have revitalized versus areas that were underdeveloped. So we noticed this because all of the revitalized areas were around IIT, the college that's in Bronzeville. Hyde Park historian. The community began in 1853 with the arrival of a young New York lawyer. Paul Cornell purchased 300 acres of land from 51st to 55th Street. Eventually, Cornell deeded 60 acres of land to the Illinois Central Railroad in exchange for daily trips to the center of commerce in the heart of Chicago. Residential areas slowly expanded over the next 30 years, and transportation networks grew more complex. The 1893 World's Fair sparked urbanization and the movement of mostly white middle-class families to Hyde Park, including University of Chicago faculty and students. Redlining restricted black families from moving into these areas, and as a result, they were constricted to the South Side's Black Belt, which was an area concentrated with low-income housing and many residents.
Hi, I'm Sophia Gallo, and I'm just a regular student that did some research. The University of Chicago had a large influence in these housing practices. During the 1930s and 40s, the college contributed to contracts that blocked the selling of property to people of color through the lens of community revitalization projects. However, a black Chicago newspaper exposed the racist intentions of the university and the real estate owners. After a Supreme Court case, black families were able to move into Hyde Park. After white flight occurred in the 60s, the community turned into a predominantly black area known for their music and jazz clubs. However, because of the deliberate reconstructing of the neighborhood into an affluent area earlier, very few streets run through Hyde Park, making it difficult to navigate. Today, the neighborhood is being exposed to gentrification, but still remains cultural significance.
The thing that I noticed going through Hyde Park is that on the outskirts of Hyde Park, there was more black people compared to when you go towards like the inside of where University of Chicago is, like towards the quote-unquote downtown of Hyde Park. There was more races that were like predominantly white, but there was also like a mix of different races and ethnicities.
I noticed in Hyde Park was that to access basically anything in that neighborhood, you had to take a bus. There wasn't any like CTA bus or trains or anything. And also, once you got into the neighborhoods, there were ads for condos, and then the condos themselves towered over all the buildings, and that just shows the industrialization in those neighborhoods.
Bronzeville and Hyde Park are very close together but have distinct differences.
Despite the fact that they are both influenced by big universities, it is clear that Hyde Park is much more heavily affected by University of Chicago than Bronzeville is by IIT. However, both of these universities caused gentrification to happen throughout both neighborhoods.
In the past, they've both been heavily affected by jazz music. To this day, the jazz culture can still be seen in both neighborhoods, but again is more apparent in Hyde Park.
Overall, both of these communities were very welcoming and very rich in art, music, and history. Go visit!